Yep. Yes, we are. And I'll just monitor that. Okay. Yep. All right. Ready to go in two, meaning 2 minutes. Yep. This is a rough Monday. Rough Monday indeed. Indeed. Let me just double check that. I'll just watch it. We're just going to watch just to make sure our connection stays solid. There we go. All right. And we are live. Yes. With the real news. Yeah, I'll touch on the Super Bowl. There's Farrah Paul. There's Bruce. It is, Tracy. Yes, it's a sad Monday. I don't know about a sad Monday. It's definitely a little bit of a difficult. There's Tammy. Folks, thank you. There's Nancy Kelly. All right, we are 1 minute out from beginning the real news. Yes, we are. So, folks, remember, share that you are watching. Stars are more than welcome. I mean, are encouraged, I should say. There's Paul. Good afternoon, Rose. There's Cheryl. Yes, everybody filtering in, ready for some real news. We're just going to wait for JR to give us the go ahead. Hold on, there's Marcus. And folks, we shall begin. There's Gene Kimball. Hey, Richard DeLuca. There's my friend Jane Rice. Bail denied for Perkins. There's Pamela. All right, folks, we are just waiting. There we go at 106. 106 on this Monday. Folks, it is Monday, February 10th. And I would argue it is there's Andrea Lemire. It's always better when she's here. It's Monday, February 10th. And I think the whole nation is actually, everyone's kind of in slow motion. Without question, listen, I would argue this is a challenging period of time right now here in our corner of the Northeast, where number one, it is snow all over the ground. Number two, it's the Monday after the Super Bowl. But we have to look for the bright spots, and that's what the real news is going to do, and bring you some of the positive news and other news that's not so positive. But nonetheless, folks, this portion of the program, check out our website, depetro.com, brought to you by the Coesit Inn, 226 Coesit Avenue, West Warwick. Lunch, dinner, drinks in the lounge. They're waiting for you. Plus, they have the market at Coesit, which has prepared meals and also delicious, soups you can take home, gourmet items. The Coesit Inn. Remember, they're open 7 days a week, and the Coesit Inn is the perfect spot, I think, I would argue. It's a great spot for collation lunch. So what do I mean by that? All right, well, someone has passed away, and funeral in the morning, church service, something perhaps at the cemetery, depending on the situation. And now, where's everyone going to go? Well, the Coesit Inn, they can handle a large group. They can handle a party of 30 people. They could handle 50 people. They could handle 100 people. The Coesit Inn. It's a perfect spot if you're entertaining because it's very spacious. So if you're having a party, retirement party, going away party, whatever it may be, they're waiting for you at the Coesit Inn. Easy to get to, right off of Bald Hill Road, 226 Coesit Avenue in West Warwick. Well, folks, I want to start off and talk a little bit about the Super Bowl. I thought, there was just something a little extra special about it with President Trump. I thought his interview that I played on the radio portion with Brett Baer, you can tell right now the president is in the zone. President Trump this is months of preparation, getting the right team around them, trying to execute it now. Obviously, now you have some judges that are trying to stop this, but it also, and I mentioned David Axelrod, who was part of the Obama campaign way back, but he, Democrat strategist, you may see him, campaign operative strategist, very knowledgeable. He'll be on CNN quite a bit. And he mentioned, and you don't hear this in the media, how President Biden declined the Super Bowl interview, even though it probably, most likely would have been a very favorable, easy interview. But he was questioning, how do you pass up something like that? But the truth is, folks, what we know, the reason why President Biden didn't do it last year for the Super Bowl is he was not up to it. He was unable to do it. They, hid his condition for some time. But I want to break down some of the things that happened yesterday. It was a disappointing game. I'll tell you a couple things. Number one, just some random thoughts about it. I didn't think Tom Brady was that good. And one of the best examples was when the Eagles got the ball, and then you heard Brady say, well, this is where they just want to run and burn off some clock, and boom, they immediately go to the end zone, and it's a dagger. So had that wrong. There were a couple things. It wasn't terrible. It was a lot of Tom Brady, as a matter of fact. It was a lot of Tom Brady. It was a lot of Tom Brady Gronk, which is fine. But I think I just think that Tony Romo and Jim Nantz, I just think that's still the better combination, but whatever. But the game was actually not a very entertaining game. And I think, as someone that watches a lot of football, number one, it is disappointing when it's the final game of the season. When you look ahead at where the league is going to go, and the league is going far more international. The plan is, so this is right now, February of 2025. I believe in 2027, what they're going to do is they're going to extend the season to go to 18 games, 2 preseason, 18 regular season games, 2 bye weeks, and then the Super Bowl would be next weekend on President's Day weekend. And then thus a big part of the country has the next day off. And it extends the season another week. So the NFL is fascinating to watch, as it is truly global. And they're also going to introduce, the working plan is they're going to have the Rams do a game. They're going to start to do games in Australia. They're also going to start to do games in Dublin, Ireland. And it's really incredible just how dominant global the NFL is going. I know a lot of people, for instance, I saw some people on social media posting, it's rigged. Watch this, it's rigged for Mahomes and the Chiefs. Well, what happened with that? What happened to the people saying it was 100% guaranteed rigged for the Chiefs to win it? They got blown out. They got blown out by the Eagles. I think President Trump getting cheered, Taylor Swift getting booed. Why did Taylor Swift get booed? Because I don't think they mentioned enough that she was booed by the Eagles fans that were there. But it is still fascinating. I like a lot of people. I thought the halftime show was not great. There was a Palestinian protester on the field. After all of this, a Palestinian protester on the field and waving the flag, and then they were able to corral. But all in all, the game was actually a blowout. You can really see where they're trying to get in all the commercials. Then at the very end, it's just one commercial after another. I didn't think Brady was great, but I don't think it mattered because it wasn't a great game to break down. But then, nonetheless, it is kind of unique. Yesterday was a unusual day. If you didn't have to go anywhere, we got a pretty sizable amount of snow, and and we'll see how the week pans out. But I want to talk about, because it's very significant what's happening right now in our state, and I don't think it's being covered extensively enough. As far as, I don't think it's getting the type of coverage that it should get. And I'm going to mention the protests, and there's actually a little bit of a war breaking out right now within the Democrat Party of the state. And I also want to touch on, well, folks, but let me just stay on track. This portion of our program is brought to you by Propane Plus. Now remember, call Propane Plus today, 401-885-4209. In Massachusetts, 508-252-3359. Propane Plus Heating and Cooling. You can always log on to their website, propaneplus.com. Folks, residential or commercial, type in your zip code. You can depend on Propane Plus. But in Rhode Island, call them 401-885-4209. And in Massachusetts, 508-252-3359 for Propane Plus. I thought the President Trump interview with Brett Baer, and by the way, the tradition at the Super Bowl is an anchor, the news anchor for the network that hosts the Super Bowl, that they're the ones that conduct the interview. So that's been the tradition, such as when NBC News has the Super Bowl, when NBC has the Super Bowl, Lester Holt would do the interview. If ABC, ESPN, they have the Super Bowl, then it would fall to David Muir, who does World News Tonight. So Brett Baer, every night at 6 o'clock, he anchors the national report essentially for Fox. So maybe it could have been Bill Hemmer, it could have been Dana Perino, or it could have been Martha McCallum. But Brett Baer, he's done the debates. He is seen as the 6 o'clock anchor. So that's why it fell to him. I thought President Trump was in good spirits. What I liked about President Trump, and I want to draw a contrast to what's going on in Rhode Island, is what he's trying to highlight is, as an example, why are we giving all this money to Canada? Why are we giving all this money to Mexico and Canada? When President Trump talks about they might as well become the 51st state, I don't know about actual statehood, but I believe, I mean, I don't know the whole thing, but I think what he's trying to get at is that we should have more opportunities with our two neighboring allies, Mexico and Canada, as opposed to just we're like a silent partner. If we're giving Canada $250 billion a year, there's certain provisions that go along with that. I think Mexico is the big one. Mexico, something needs to be done about these cartels. Something needs to be done about all these people funneling over the border. Now, closer to home in Rhode Island, I see many people posting on the page. I've had people contact me. We need to call President Trump. We need to call Tom Homan. We need to get them in here. We need to, it's so preposterous and it's so ridiculous. What I encourage you to do, if you're one of those people, is you have two representatives right now. You have Seth Magaziner, Congressman Magaziner, and you have Congressman Gabe Amo. So this business of, and I've had people, can you call, can you contact, send this to Tom? Listen, enough of this mamby-pamby stuff, folks. Self-reliant. Gabe Amo, you should be calling his office and telling him or his staff politely, you don't like a lot of his stances. People should be contacting Seth Magaziner. You have representatives. They need to hear from their constituents. And more than just one person. What is happening right now is it's complete insanity. What Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency is pointing out, that so many programs that we have, both in the state and with federal money, folks, it's fraudulent money. You know, a lot of people, some of this will be a little inside, but there's a big union head, and Justin Katz and myself talk about it. Pat Crowley, that guy, he is a socialist. He is a communist. He's now the head of the AFL-CIO. That's someone that Governor McKee meets with. That's someone that, has McKee on speed dial. He is someone, and it doesn't do us any good. But when he says jump, McKee says how high. but it's now we realize that all this Governor McKee touting all this green energy and the green economy and all these windmills that they've put off Block Island and everything else. Folks, what we're learning is none of them can survive without all these government subsidies and grants. And Crowley's wife, as if it's a coincidence, is part of one of these. They call it, oh, it's an energy group. Folks, it is a scam. What is this companies that only can operate with the government giving them money? That's like NPR. That's not a private enterprise. That's not a private. This whole thing is it's fake. None of it can exist without it. And it's just another way to fuel more money to the private, to the unions, they're not even the private sector because they're so intertwined. That's not private sector business. If all of these, quote, green energy wind companies that they like to tout, if they're so successful and that's the future and that's the direction we should go, why is it they can't exist without all this government money being pumped this way? So, and then you find out Crowley's wife is part of it. So it's an inside scam. They say, oh, we're getting these grants. It's for the green economy. It's for the Green New Deal. It's for, the windmills off that. No, it's not. It's just another scam to throw the unions money who basically run the Democrat Party. Folks, I want to be very clear, like those people protesting in downtown Providence, and we want Reed and White House, and we want them to do more, and they have to block things. Folks, we're on the outside looking in. This should be a moment that the media should focus on the dangers of not having a Republican in office representing the state in Washington. And by the way, that goes for Massachusetts and Connecticut. This is not an effective form of government. Congressman Seth Magaziner, he's not down there to try to work with anybody. Gabe Ambo, who I can't believe he is the congressman in the 1st District. They're not there trying to work with anybody. They're now just attack dogs for the Democrat Party. They have no intention of even attempting to work with anybody in Washington. And all the misinformation, even locally, they'd like to say, oh, look at that. Alzheimer research into dementia and Alzheimer is being paused. Yeah, they don't mention. I'll grant it. I'll bet there are some worthwhile things that would receiving government grants for research and things like that. But the problem is it's mixed in with, 10 million so Egypt can put on trans plays. And I saw Kathy Gregg of the Providence Journal put, can somebody give me concrete proof of the corruption that Elon Musk is uncovering? Folks, they notice now, now they want exact, I need proof to see that money's not going anywhere. It's going into people's pockets. It has to be cut off. And even locally, you have illegals that arrive here. And Rhode Island has more than people realize. They even have more than I realize. Those of you watching Road Patrol. Friday night, suddenly the streets are quiet. They've written articles, Central Falls, everyone's afraid to go out. Everyone's afraid they're going to, be deported. But an uncovered story is the state will talk about, how much we spend on Medicaid. How much we spend on Medicaid. Wow, the state is so dependent on the federal government for Medicaid. Well, folks, and I want to be very clear about this, and there's two things at play here. Now, Medicare is people 65 or older or certain disabilities. Medicaid is health coverage for people with low incomes. What Rhode Island spends on Medicaid. Now, Governor McKee and everyone at the State House will tell you, oh, we have to fund Medicaid and all these poor people. Folks, what they're not telling you is people from other countries arrive in Rhode Island 8 months pregnant. What do? They put them immediately on Medicaid. And the same thing, all the illegals. A big question, I don't hear anyone even ask this at the Rhode Island State House. How many illegals in the state are on Medicaid that we're paying for, by the way, that we're paying for? Maybe that's why the number is so huge. And by the way, if you go to other states, they won't put the illegals on Medicaid. But in Rhode Island, they do. And as a result of that, it acts as a draw. This whole business of birthright, there are people that specifically come to our state and come to the country with one goal. There's even companies set up. It's to give birth in America, and then the child's an American citizen, and then the whole family comes over. Folks, who do you think ends up paying for all that? I don't hear anyone at the State House challenge how many people that are not supposed to even be here are taking advantage of the state's Medicaid program that we pay for, you pay for, I pay for. That's what I am talking about with the fraud and the waste. And you don't see any news stories on it. Make no mistake about it. Now, I want to touch on this situation with ICE. But folks, I do want to stay on schedule. And this portion of our program is brought to you by Kids Club. Remember, Kids Club on the Pike. Kids Club on the Pike. Birthday party venue. It's tremendous for a birthday party or a teen party. Any gathering of children, you're going to love Kids Club on the Pike. They also have before and after school care, providing transportation, before and after care for school-age children ages 5 through 12. Preschool, half and full day program for preschool ages 3 through 5. Kids Club on the Pike. They're right on the Cranston-Johnston line. You can call them at 401-443-5336. Now, I share their Facebook page, but yes, they're a great party venue. But on top of that, remember, they also offer before and after school care in preschool. Kids Club on the Pike, located right on Plainfield Pike, right off of 295 on the Cranston-Johnston line. Well, folks, good afternoon. Yes, this is the real news. Now, as far as ICE, I'm going to once again remind people, you have to look at who they're going after. And you don't want to feed the narrative. Some people, I get it, they don't really pay attention. But they're going after dangerous criminals. The people that they're getting, the people that they're scooping up, the individuals that they're targeting are individuals that many of them are wanted in other countries for very serious crimes, homicide, child molestation, various things like that. What I also don't see anyone framing, and I'm talking about locally. For instance, when the media will ask Governor McKee, who it's not your imagination. Right now, Governor McKee is frozen. He doesn't know what to do. He recognizes, I'll tell you about the governor. Governor McKee knows that there's so much fraud that could be uncovered. There's so much fraud within the state. There's so much fraud in spending at DOT. How about at the prison, the correctional officers? 30 million. They have a budget, regular budget, overtime budget. They exceed the overtime budget by 30 million. Folks, there's so much. All of these state workers, Rhode Island is filled with wasteful spending and fraud and people that just milk and take advantage of the system. And no one calls them out. McKee doesn't know what to do. But what I don't hear anyone in the media question, whether it's Rhode Island Governor Dan McKee or Lieutenant Governor Sabina Matos. And by the way, again, I'll concede Governor McKee is keeping a very low profile right now. And he's letting Aaron, Congressman Magaziner and Amo, and letting them make a lot of noise, and Senator Sheldon Whitehouse. But what I don't hear anyone ask is whether it's the mayor of Providence or the mayor of Pawtucket or the mayor of Central Falls, when they talk about we're not going to allow ICE near schools or churches, I don't hear anyone, or how about the Warwick School Committee? We're going to protect all, capital ALL, all of our children and their families. What I don't hear anyone question is let's just say a country like Guatemala, and there are people in the state, in our state, that are wanted for murder in Guatemala, and they're hiding in Rhode Island. And how broken this is through the orders of Rhode Island Governor Dan McKee and the various mayors. The state truly acts as a sanctuary because that murderer from Guatemala or Colombia or Nicaragua or Honduras, wherever, they know that they are safe, or they were safe, by hiding in Rhode Island. They don't hide in Florida. They don't hide in Texas. In those states, they work with ICE. But here's the larger part, folks, that I don't hear anyone bring up. The Warwick School Committee, we will not allow ICE near any of our students and their families. Warwick School Committee, we will not cooperate with ICE. But here's the question I don't hear anyone ask. Why would you be protecting someone that's wanted for homicide in Guatemala? Why would you be protecting someone that's wanted for child molestation in one of these other countries? When the Warwick schools or the mayor of Central Falls, whatever, say, we're not going to let ICE near our school, why would you want a murderer who's wanted in another country hiding in one of your schools? Or someone that's wanted or been found guilty of child molestation? My point is, I don't even hear the media ask that type of question. They do a big, I played earlier in the radio show, there was an ICE protest in Pawtucket, and they said, we're sending a loud message, we're not going to let them near our schools, we're not letting them near our churches. There's been no reports of that. The reporter just stands there like a potted plant, not even challenging, not saying, could you point to an example where that has happened? And even if it did happen, so people, can imagine this headline: people in Central Falls were outraged as ICE officials went into the grammar school where they apprehended, a murderer, a child molester wanted in Guatemala for crimes against children. The people were outraged as they dragged him out of the school. Why would you want someone like that in your school to begin with? The state, our elected officials, folks, they need to be questioned. McKee needs to be questioned. Matos needs to be questioned. Magaziner and Amo need to be questioned. Sheldon Whitehouse is not up for re-election for a very long time. I'll be curious to see how Senator Jack Reed handles this, because now they're going to really start to be on Senator Reed more. Folks, this portion of our program is brought to you by Modern Mechanical. Now listen, it's cold out. Looks like another stormy week. Remember, Modern Mechanical, what can they do? Boiler repair and maintenance. Is your boiler working okay? No? Contact Modern Mechanical. Furnace repair and maintenance. Heater repair and maintenance. Modern Mechanical. Call Richard today, 401-441-5442. 401-5442. 401-441-5442. I share their Facebook page. It's Modern Mechanical. Folks, right now, all of this talk, tough talk coming from the Democrat Party. Governor McKee, he knows how much is at risk. Up on Smith Hill, they're afraid that if people start to go through many of the line items to see the amount of waste that just gets pumped into the state. I mean, as I've talked about, and I think a lot of people recognize the state is just intertwined with wasteful, fraudulent um, federal aid, federal grants, and folks, it all goes flying out where they take care of a lot of times, apparently, it's the special interests, it's the unions. McKee right now, Rhode Island Governor Dan McKee, he's talking a tough game. We're gonna stand up and I run this state, but let's see how he fares when he goes to Washington. How is he? Forget about being in the same room with President Trump. I think he'd be afraid to be around some of the other Republican governors. He'd be afraid and timid just around some of the White House administration. Folks, as I have stated, now, right now in the state, if you followed a lot of the social media posts, whether it's on our Facebook page, and by the way, folks, all linked to all our social media, there's links right on the website, dpetro.com, whether it's Instagram, whether it's Facebook, whether it's YouTube or TikTok or X. But where I really notice it is on Facebook and Instagram, that if you speak out against illegal immigration, what are the people saying anytime you speak out in favor of it? You're a racist. They've resorted to name calling. That's what it's come down to. Out of nowhere, if you say, or state, I should say, I don't think we should have open borders. I don't think we should have a system where anyone can come in and we have no track of them within the country. Folks, by the way, there are guest worker programs. I'm not saying that you can't have companies that say, hey, listen, we need these workers, but it all needs to be above board. It has to be on the books. It has to be a real program. We can't have people just floating in and out of the country and no one knows where they are, can control them. But there's several things to look for here. Rhode Island has a very large Dominican population, huge Dominican population, much larger than people realize. Now, there's a lot of people that come here from the DR, from the Dominican Republic. And I already know first of all, they get our services, right? They get ABT cards. They send their children to the schools for free. The state puts them on Medicaid. They benefit all that. Guess you're paying for it. We're paying for it. But the fact of the matter is there's an awful lot of people that are from the Dominican Republic, and they go in and out of Rhode Island. And I hear from many of the teachers in Providence, Pawtucket, Central Falls, they pull their kids out of school this time of year. Where are they? Right before Christmas, they head back to the Dominican, and then they come back here right around March. But the fact of the matter is, this business that they're allowed to come in here and take advantage, and that has to come to an end. And it's a huge part of people born in the Dominican Republic are Dominican citizens. They're not American citizens. Some people born in the Dominican, U.S. parents may be U.S. citizens. Most of them are not, though. And that's a huge part of the problem. Whether Providence, you see the outpouring of support for the Dominican parade that they have and the festival they have in August. You had the arrest that took place. So my point is, it's not all Guatemala. It's not all people from a lot of different countries, but these people from the Dominican Republic, that's a major, huge part. Providence has a huge Dominican population, and they come here and they take advantage of our system, and they have apartments, and they take advantage of a lot of the services of the state, but they're not citizens. And I see the huge backlash, or I see the reaction, I should say, of people on social media. What is all this about ICE? And well, the Dominican people, hey, it's not a matter of whether or not they're great people, but they're still here. And I get it, by the way. If people from the Dominican, or let alone the people from Guatemala, as I've talked about, their anger should be directed at the people that gave them made false promises. Mayor Lorza, it is true. They set up direct flights from Guatemala to TF Green, and they would greet them at the airport. And he would say, hey, listen, I'm illegal. I came here illegally, and I'm the mayor of the city. Come into Providence, and we'll protect you, and you can seek sanctuary here, and no one's going to remove you. Well, now all of a sudden they're scrambling. They're scrambling as this is going on. Governor McKee, oh yeah, come into hey, listen, I'm going to give you driving privileges. We're going to give you EBT cards. We're going to put you on Medicaid. Send your children to the school. Don't worry about paying taxes. Yeah, just come live here, and we'll take care of you. Well, now what is he saying? Now he's saying, well, I don't know what's going to happen with ICE. Folks, we're not going backwards. President Trump had a very positive approval rating. And right now, and I want to state that I don't see any leadership. And this should get you angry as well. When Congressman Magaziner, when Congressman Amo, and all these people marching around Kennedy Plaza and everything else, hey, listen, you're in Washington, and you're supposed to represent everyone. And you're not supposed to just be down there trying to fight the new administration. That's what people want. People don't want the Rhode Island public schools with the Rhode Island teachers unions are some of the worst, apparently a national study, some of the worst offenders of encouraging the gender reassignment at young ages. Folks, Warwick now, and Justin Katz brought up a very good point. So Warwick, which is in total chaos, Warwick is an underperforming city. The Warwick schools are a shell of what they could be or should be, but they just have terrible leadership. But right now in Warwick, it sounds like they're going to abandon. They were going to build 2 new high schools at a cost. It started at $350 million. The latest cost is $380 million. Someone else told me the cost is well over $400 million. Folks, what are they talking about? Public school enrollment is down. President Trump is moving towards school choice. The country wants school choice. Other states have school choice. Why can't Rhode Island have school choice? And as far as the charter schools, that's where people want to send. People want to send their children to either charter schools or private schools or Catholic schools. But the old public school formula has failed, and it's failed badly. The Department of Education is now just another arm of funding these corrupt deals. It's just our tax money being used to empower the teachers unions and further the Democrat Party. But I don't see any leaders right now. I don't see any leaders. Folks, this portion of our program, and they are terrific. Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. Give them a call, 401-283-9815. Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. They'll seal coat driveways and parking lots, crack filling, pothole repairs, line stripping, and we're going to have a lot by the time this month and this winter is over. They can make your pavement look like new. Keep your parking lot safe by fixing potholes, cracks, make sure your lines are bright, directs traffic safely. They also do sports courts, resurfacing, pickleball, tennis, basketball. They'll also epoxy garages and patios, decorative concrete flooring, Call Corey today. Quality asphalt seal coating. 401 283 9015. 401 283 9815 for quality asphalt seal coating. Well, folks, good afternoon. This is the real news. And right now, this is, as I have talked about, this is a pivotal time in the state. I saw, I think over the weekend, I think on one of the Sunday shows, I saw the governor of Texas. Folks, in Texas, there's so many states that are relocating there. There are so many companies. There's people that are relocating there. There's companies that are relocating there. There's people from other states. It's a mass exodus to states like Florida, states like Texas, states like Tennessee, and the Carolinas. There are models out there that this state, that the whole New England corridor right now, Connecticut, Mass, and Rhode Island, folks, it is time to abandon the old way of trying to govern, which is it's way too much government spending, way too much wasteful spending. And as I've said, I find it embarrassing that the state, Governor McKee, oh, unless the feds give us the money, we can't, we don't have money for the bridge. He's so content to run the place as a welfare state. And it's tiresome. That's one of the reasons why Hasbro is like, why do I don't think I want to be part of this. The state is so off course of what it should be. A small state should actually be a very self-sustaining state. Those people marching around Kennedy Plaza on Saturday, we want to stop Elon. We want to stop Trump. Of course they do, because so many of the scams are being uncovered. So much of the wasteful spending, whether it's in the Department of Education, that USAID, what are we talking about? Millions overseas for ludicrous type of causes. But on top of that, they're not even going to a real cause. They're most likely going in someone's pocket. And it's all intertwined. That's why then they were uncovering that some of these shell groups would take government grants and then instead fund it to Black Lives Matter. I don't want any of my tax money going to fund Black Lives Matter. That's a hate group. Many of these groups that are protesting and they're upset, and Seth Magaziner does a Zoom call with, and everybody's still putting their stupid, the pronoun thing, she, her. Don't you understand? It's all a scam where they set up, and it's always something they try to be positive. Oh, no, this is green energy. This is set up for that. It's actually not. It's all like shell companies that individuals that are politically connected, and then they just get the benefits of it. One of the things, Seth Magaziner was on a Zoom call. He was with the people from Mystic Aquarium. Why is Rhode Island providing any money to Mystic Aquarium that's in Connecticut? Oh, well, we got them a federal grant. What are you talking about? Why isn't Connecticut funding that? It's most likely just some scam they've come up with, where then there's some politically union-connected individuals, and now they're just funneling it through. And our local media, they always highlight, oh, as a result of the money being frozen. I'm not saying that there aren't some worthwhile causes. A Brown University study on dementia or Alzheimer's, of course that sounds worthwhile. But then they have that mixed in with, we're going to put on a play for trans students in Guatemala, and it's only going to cost us $10 million. That $10 million is going in someone's pockets. It's never even seeing the light of day. We're going to send this money, $10 million, to Pakistan so trans boys can play sports in Pakistan. What are you talking about? Mark Patinkin wrote a good piece in the Providence Journal that I like, that he experienced firsthand how years ago, he writes, he dropped off his daughter at a summer, like a basketball camp, and it was supposed to be a girls' camp. And he saw some boys that were also going. And then as he looked into it, he realized that someone agreed that they could be included with the girls' camp. And then at the end of the camp, when they awarded best shooter, best free throw shooter, best, the boys got all the, like at that time, whenever that was, years ago, that was Mark Patinkin identifying like this is ridiculous. Why are these boys part of this, folks? But that is the Democrat Party. That's the Democrat Party. Elon Musk has become now. That's who they go after. That's who they try to target. As if everything was going along great before President Trump and Elon Musk entered the picture. So I'm looking at some headlines. Worst Super Bowl in history. Trump walks out. Looting and fires in Philly. Tom Brady flop in booth. I actually I like this. King Donald. Trump muses about third term over and over again. Right about now, hunt for intel on cartels. Don't you understand, folks? That's where the Trump administration is ready to go after the cartels. Governor McKee wants to set up the safe injection centers in Providence, telling people we're going to allow you to do heroin and fentanyl safely as long as you live here in Rhode Island. Who would want people that are addicted on those dangerous drugs? Why would you want to attract people like that? He'll take Canada. Palestinians wouldn't have a right to return. Well, they've destroyed the land. I agree. Rebuild Gaza and ship them off to other countries. President calls USAID tremendous fraud. Listen, I'm not saying that there aren't some good programs inside of that, but that's just how they do things at the State House. And folks, the part that needs to be examined, for instance, and I'll touch on again local media. There's someone, she's the number 2 in the Senate. Her name is Val Lawson. She's the embarrassing senator from East Providence. Shouldn't have been reelected, was reelected. Number 2 to Ruggiero, who's so sick, he can't even be at the State House. But some of the media people writing, oh, she wears 2 hats, because it was a bunch of legislators meeting at some function with the teachers union. The real answer is they're not wearing 2 hats. In any other state, the number 2 person, she is employed. She runs NEA Rhode Island, the very powerful teachers union. In any other state, that would be viewed as a complete conflict of interest. In many other states, I should say, it would be viewed as, no, wait a minute. You can't be the number 2 in the state Senate while you're working as the head of the teachers union, because then all you're trying to do is pass all these bills that are favorable to them. And so when the Rhode Island media says, oh, she's actually not wearing 2 hats. She wears 1 hat. And that's the union hat. And they're so extreme. Folks, remember, the whole ploy that they have enacted right now, like the Warwick schools, will protect all of our students. Folks, ultimately, they're basically saying, send all the illegals to Warwick. Because if we can fill up the classrooms, that's just more money. We can hire more teachers. We're going to need bigger schools. The real truth is you don't need all those teachers, and you don't even need all those classrooms. More children, more parents are deciding they're going to homeschool, or they're going to send them to a private school, or they're going to send them to a Catholic school. I met someone last week. He and his wife work very hard. His mother right now is homeschooling their 2 children. They're both young, and they're saving money for when they hit right around, I think it's undecided, but like 11 or 12, they're going to send them to a private school and not even bother with the failed public schools. So, what I'm trying to explain is the state is really on the wrong path. And as I have told you folks, Governor McKee, he right now we don't have any leadership. We have elected officials that are just frozen. They're not sure what to do. They're not sure whether to follow Magazine or an AMO. They want to fight everyone. They're not sure. Right now, the Rhode Island leaders, elected officials, they're not leaders, are really frozen with how to adapt to what's happening right now in the country. Folks, this portion of our program is brought to you by Arch Design Builders. Remember, they specialize in residential design. This incredible Eddie and Roxanne husband-wife team, call them and set up that meeting, 401-207-4124. Arch Design Builders, 401-207-4124. What am I talking about? Maybe you'd like to redo your kitchen or redo your bathroom or a basement or a deck or a special project. Arch Design Builders. You're going to notice the arch difference, but it all starts with the phone call, the free consultation. Let them look at the space. Let's have a conversation of what you're looking for. Arch Design Builders, residential or commercial. Call them and set up that free quote, 401-207-4124. You can find them on both Facebook and Instagram, and then always online at archdesignbuildersri.com. Well, folks, good afternoon. Again, this is the real news. Now, we're going to see later. I don't know. I mean, we're obviously, the roads are clear, but I can't ignore that for various reasons right now. Part of it's time of year, part of it's weather, but our road patrol action has been a little bit quiet than normal. But Rhode Island federal judge has ordered the Trump administration to restore frozen funding and abide by a temporary restraining order. That is a very motivated Democrat judge, is who that is. Very, very Democrat motivated judge, Judge McConnell. He was a huge Democrat fundraiser before he actually became a judge, and so the element of it is I wouldn't. The surprise would be if he wasn't asking, if he wasn't going along with that narrative. I would find it very difficult to believe that he would not be ruling in that manner. But folks, right now, I think, and it's kind of what I've talked about, there's a lot at stake for what's going to happen with our part of the country. And what I mean by that is both Rhode Island and Massachusetts. I think this is a fundamental shift right now. It's a pivotal time in history. And there's so many people, and I believe that people need to be engaged with who the Washington delegation is. Just in Rhode Island, I know of someone that contacted Senator Elizabeth Warren's office, who lives in Massachusetts, and obviously she doesn't want to hear that. But they can't just hear from their core supporters that support everything they're doing. And I'm not talking about being rude. And nowadays, the way it's set up, you don't even really have to call. You could email. But I implore you to contact Congressman Magaziner, Congressman Amo, and let them know you expect them to try to find common ground and to work with the new administration. President Trump won the election. He has a plan to get the country back on track. And they're coming out firing on all cylinders. As I was mentioning in the radio show, Caitlin Collins of CNN was saying how with the Biden administration, weekends were quiet. President Trump, it is like rapid fire with executive orders. They have to get things in motion. And part of this, without question, is the trade war with China. That's where we're in. But you have the right. You have the right to send an email to Governor McKee. You have the right to send an email to whoever your congressperson is, Amo and Magaziner. They need to hear from people other than just their core supporters. Listen, folks, we'll see what develops later, news-wise, as far as Road Patrol on the radio. Stay tuned for the 2 o'clock news. Everyone else, we'll see how it plays out on this Super Bowl Monday.